I've always had a passion to do things really well, and always to challenge the status quo, to say, well, how can we do this better, or how can we do this differently? I pretty much was born into farming, and when my parents immigrated to New Zealand to come farming, and for the opportunity, and grew up wanting to be a farmer. I still always loved farming, really, loved working with cows. One of the things I love about dairy farming is that farmers actively share information with each other. When we were starting out and working out what we wanted to do, we could go to discussion groups and go to events and learn how to be good farmers and how to do well. And that collaborative nature is something that I've always really enjoyed. And there's been a lot of opportunity in dairy, so we've pursued those opportunities and grown our business on the back of that. But what I was always conscious of too, the framework helped us to do that. And so a lot of people who had went before us had contributed to that to help bring the industry to where it was. And so, I'm just a great believer in giving something back and not just taking. And so I always felt the need to be involved in the governance and the decision making of the industry to help, and to help the next generation so that they could then benefit from this great industry as well and be part of it. So I've always had a passion to do things really well, and always to challenge the status quo, to say, well, how can we do this better, or how can we do this differently? And because if you do the same as everybody else, you'll get the same as everybody else. So we've always been prepared to sort of push the boundaries a bit and try different things, whether that's in our farming systems, whether it's the way we do things, whether it's how we run our lives. And I think when you do that, that becomes kind of the person you are. That just becomes part of you. Through Farm Medix, we've built the relationship where I know that what you're offering, you're working for the right reasons. You're trying to help farmers. And therefore, from my perspective, when I have an issue around mastitis or some animal welfare issues, I'll talk to you about it and we'll come up with a solution about how to fix it. And I guess the example we had at Frontier Road this year, where we had issues with high somatic cell counts with the contract milker there, we were able to identify exactly what that was and then put a management plan in place to manage that and get the somatics down and get that organised. So that's just a good example about where I've kind of come to you and said, look, we've got an issue here, let's go and sort this out. And that's worked really well. So I guess at Frontier Road, we had the high somatic cell count. We wanted to know what was going on, so we did the snapshot and actually worked out that it was yeast. And there was obviously some poor hygiene when the cows were dried off. So we identified the cows as cows calved. We tested them all individually. We drafted out the ones, and the somatic cell count went down straight away. And then we slowly introduced those cows back into the herd as they came right, and so that worked remarkably well. And the contract milker, his solution was, we'll just make them 3-teater cows. And we just said, no, hang on a minute, no, let's think this through. And so we were able to then draft those cows out, and get the somatic cell counts to come right down. And then as these cows as the cows themselves started to actually bring their own somatic cell counts, we were able to introduce them back in the herd. We didn't lose any quarters as part of that process, whereas the outcome would have been otherwise, probably to either cull some cows or to actually make them 3-teaters. And so for us, that was a real win. And because there's no issue with the milk with high yeast, just high somatic cell counts, we were feeding calves at the time. We were able to feed that to the calves, and not waste the milk, and then slowly introduce them back into the herd. And now they're all back, they're all back in the herd and they're all fine. In Logal's example, he uses fresh cow, dry cow to identify what exactly the bug is that he's dealing with in that cow when he gets a cow with high somatic cells or mastitis. And then we know exactly how to treat that cow, or whether it's treatable or not. And we find that works very proactively, and then we can quickly work out, I guess, what the bugs are we're dealing with and what the issues are and how best to deal with them. And so that works really well in that example, that works really well. Having a process in place like this, I find, means you can identify exactly what the bugs are and whether it's treatable or not. And through that process, I guess, use a lot less antibiotics, because you're not using antibiotics or trying to treat a cow for stuff that's not fit for purpose. And so it allows us then to actually think about that and meeting some of the industry objectives, I guess, about using less antibiotics and trying to get our somatic cells down.
Why would Farm Medix be an option that you should consider outside of the mainstream? Because it's not the mainstream.
We've had a relationship for a while, and so I've got to know you really well and got to know what you, the way you think and what you can offer. And so normally for me, you know, as soon as I have these issues, I'll just ring you up and say, look, hey, this is the issue, what should we do? I've found Farm Medix to be really helpful for the things that I've, you know, when we've had these issues and trying to work through them, you know, so it's not my area of expertise, and so, you know, I'm always know to, you know, I have an issue, always go to the people who are the experts. That's always, you know, the way we operate. So.